try to work on your mind and your reasoning and all of those things, but at the root of your issue is you have a soul that has been contaminated by the power of sin, and there's only one way to get set free from sin, and that is to bring it to the Lord Jesus Christ and receive by faith the gift of salvation that He offers you. That's the only way to uproot and begin to transform the root of sin in our lives. And this is what He wants to do. Now, here's the issue. We can look at the world easily and say, golly, boys, the world is in the pits. It's bad, it's dark, it's getting worse. But Charles Spurgeon said this. He said, the worst evils that have ever been brought upon the world have come upon them by an unholy church. In other words, what I would say is that a sinful world is expected, but a sinful church is catastrophic. A sinful world is expected, but a sinful church is catastrophic, because if the church ceases to be the light in this world, there is no light. If the church ceases to be the salt in the earth, there is no salt. And so it's expected for the world to be evil, but when it starts to infect the church and get into our hearts, that's when something bad begins to happen. And here's what happened early on in the church. There was a dude named Evagrius. And if you have a son, that's a great name, by the way. Evagrius. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. We're looking at we may be adopting another baby boy here in about a month or so, God willing. Now, a lot of that's off it, but here, we're holding out hope. May name him Evagrius. Being in this sermon series. But Evagrius had what he believed were 8 evil thoughts. And as church history continued, they changed that into the 7 deadly sins. Now, Evagrius was what they called a desert father. He was a monk back in about the year 300 or 400. Here's what happened. If you remember in church history, in about 300, Constantine made Christianity the official religion of Rome. Well, because it became the official religion, guess what? All kinds of sinful people got into leadership and bad things happened, and it got corrupted. And all these young reformers were like, man, you know what? This is terrible, because Christianity used to be a minority of people who were persecuted, who walked in purity and the power of God. But now Christianity is the majority, and they're not persecuted, and they got no power, and they're all sinful and corrupt. And so these guys said, forget this, man. We're leaving Rome. We're getting out of the city, and we're going into the wilderness. And these men, no joke. There's guys like St. Anthony. You can read a book about him. You can read a book about Simon the Stylite. They lived in the wilderness for 20 to 30 years in caves, seeking God, separating themselves from God, living a life of absolute devotion to God. And they walked in supernatural power. Simon the Stylite, people would go out to him, and he would know who was coming to him miles off. We got there.